Hello, beautiful people. Hey, and welcome to our Ignited Teachable Moment for the week. Yes, I am excited to be here with you guys again. I am grateful that another week has gone and that I am still here, still passionate, healthy, living, breathing, and always humbled, honored, and grateful that I get to walk in my purpose, in my passion, in my truth, in authenticity, and spend time in my life doing what I love the most. And that is being a resource for coaching, motivation, inspiration, and teaching you how to own your power, stand in your greatness, and make things happen in your life, achieve the goals you desire, live the life you desire to have, whatever that looks like for you. Being a resource and a walking, breathing testimony of what is possible when you step out on faith, when you fear less. Two words, not be fearless. No, not the adjective, but fear less. When you fear less, step out on faith more. What is possible for your life. And so I'm so excited to have you here today. If you're watching the replay or you caught this video just, through some type of search or just scrolling and there it was, there's a reason that you scrolled and landed here. So listen to this message because there is something for you here. So this week's message, let's just turn off all our devices and double check that nothing stands in our way this week. So I'm going to jump right in because, as you know, I like these messages to be 30 powerful minutes. Like, I don't want it to be 10 powerful minutes and 20 minutes waste your time, but I also don't want it to be an hour of powerful minutes, 60 powerful minutes, because I also know that you have a life and you have things you're trying to do and get to, honey. I can relate. I know. So I want to make these powerful minutes for you. I am Rhonda Kennard, your Ignited Life and Success Coach, Amazon #1 bestselling author of my most recent book, Women Leaders with Empowering Stories. I love that book. And if you're in the market for something to read that will inspire you, what I love about this is that it's a collaboration with 9 other authors. And so you're not just getting one perspective, but you're getting 9, okay? You're getting 9 different perspectives. And that is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So before I jump in, I do want to make sure that audio and everything is working. So I'm just going to jump on my phone for 10 seconds to make sure that everything is up here, because what I would hate to do is go through this entire thing to find out that you could not hear a one word I said. So let me just take a second and do some due diligence here and be certain that you can see and hear this live. Yes. Hey, there it was. Okay, I'm going to turn that off, but yes, you could hear it. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so today we are talking about the 4 C's of change. Now, I am getting this directly from, not all of it, but the context of this. I want you to be aware that I have talked about the 4 C's of change in my first book, A Life Ignited, Ignite Your Inner Fuse. And I use this book to train and teach so much of A Life Ignited, the basis for you living the life you want to live, seeing the change you want to see, losing the weight, mind, body, and spirit, changing your mind, feeling good, finding happiness, tapping back into your joy and your personal power, believing yourself, getting rid of all that negative self-talk. It's all here. And it's a powerful book, right? Not a lot of pages to read. But like I said, I believe in power-packed minutes, not all this other extra stuff, right? I want to get right to it. And so in this book, I talk about the 4 C's of change. So I'm adding a little to that, especially with now at the time of this recording, it's around the new year. So people are really thinking about, right? You may be thinking about, what do I need to do? What needs to be different? I don't want next year to end how this year did. And maybe you've had some successes and maybe you have not. Maybe you haven't had as many as you would like. Only you know that. And I would love for you to share that in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, share it in the comments. Let me see where you are, right? So I know how to address, some of your questions. I do go back into the replays and I look at questions and I will respond. Nothing goes unresponded to unless it's just junk and foolery. And then, like you, no time for that, right? So put in the chat like where you are, and if you accomplish some things but you're like, listen, I know that there's so much more in me, I know that I'm capable of so much more. And so when you know that, right, you can't just sit in that. There are things you need to do. So at the end of the day, there is change that is required, because whatever you were doing in this year, in this moment, it is not going to take you to where you want to be. So change is required. So I want to talk about what is change. So change is, let me get my notes up here. Okay. So let's jump right into the 4 C's of change. But before we talk about the 4 C's, and we're only going to talk about one, and I am looking at the time here because I want to make sure that this ends in 30 minutes. So super power packed, you guys. But change is transformation. It's moving from one season to the next. When seasons change, right? We go from cold weather to warmer weather. We go from warmer weather to colder weather, right? And in some cases, from summer to fall, we go from very sunny green leaves to what we see as a transformation and leaves to this beautiful, amazing fall foliage. And the weather shifts. You get those nice beautiful nights where you can finally put the window up and catch that breeze, right? So change, at the end of the day, the very short version, is transformation. And if you want to see yourself move from where you are now to where you desire to be, change is required. It's not an option. It's something that it's not, oh, well, that sounds nice, maybe if I get to it. It is required for you to change. Now, let's jump right into our 4 C's of change. Like I said, this week, we're only tackling number 1. Next week will be number 2. If we need 2 more weeks for 3 and 4, that's what we need. But what is the 4 C's? What are the 4 C's of change? Specifically, the first one we're going to talk about today is that change requires commitment. Change requires commitment. Okay? What is commitment? Now, I looked up this definition, and we all kind of know what commitment is, but I really loved what I found here because there were 2 versions of the definition of commitment. So commitment is the state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, activity, etc. Right? So take all those words out. Commitment is dedication. Unwavering, unstoppable, unapologetic, non-negotiable dedication to what you want to do. Later, we're going to talk about how we're not always dedicated to what we desire to do, right? We make excuses, we make provisions. Oh, well, because it's the holiday. Oh, well, because it's my birthday. Oh, well, because they said, oh, well, the money's good, even though I know that my destiny and my dreams are over here. I'm stuck here because the money's so good. Oh, well, he's so nice sometimes. And even though I know I've been called away from this abusive relationship, this draining relationship, this going nowhere relationship, I'm going to stay here because, right? Not dedication. If you want things to be different, you have to have unwavering, non-negotiable commitment to the vision, to the purpose, to the divine calling on your life. And that does not happen when we play tipsy-toey every now and thensies with our goals and dreams. Okay, but let me get into the second definition, because this took me to a different place, and I definitely have to share this with you. So commitment is also an engagement or obligation that restricts freedom of action. Boom, boom. Did you catch the nugget I just dropped? Okay. Commitment is an engagement or obligation that restricts freedom of action. So now I want you to think about what you really want to be dedicated to. What do you really want for yourself? Now I'm going to turn this table right back on me, and I'm going to say it like this. My desire to no longer have high blood pressure that causes near fatal symptoms and health issues in my life requires me, it obliges me to restrict myself from freedom of action. That means that there are some things that while I am in this process, we're going to talk about that in a moment, while I'm in this process of change, there are going to be things I cannot do. And this is where so many people get tied up in that gray zone, that comfort zone, that, oh, I don't know, that looks hard. I don't want to go through the process zone, because there are things you are not willing to give up. You are holding on, whatever, you are holding on so strongly to things that are not serving you, are not progressing you, are not growing you, are not making you feel good, are not taking you to the next level, because you refuse to give up those things that you can no longer do to get to where you want to go. There are things that if I want to have a healthy blood pressure, I cannot eat, point blank, period. You know what I have over here next to my tea? I have a green smoothie here. And let me tell you, do I want to drink green smoothies, especially these cold ones when it's like 20 degrees outside? Absolutely no. I do not want to drink a green smoothie right now. But here's what I have to do. I have to restrict from certain foods in order to get my desired health and wellness result. That means I have to substitute the things that I cannot do for things that I can do. And some of you do not want to substitute. You're holding on to old patterns, old behaviors, old ways of doing things, old mindsets, old thoughts, old negative self-talk. And because of that, you are stuck, and that is why you are not seeing the changes you desire to see. Change is commitment. Okay, not only is it unwavering, non-negotiable dedication to what you desire, but you have to know that through the process of change, you will be required to give up something. Whatever you are holding on to, you've got to let it go. Oh, I can't do that anymore. I can't say that. I can't be there. I can't hang there. I can't talk about that. I cannot eat that. I cannot do that thing. I cannot think those thoughts, because they keep me from living the life I desire to live. And some of you are stuck right now and frustrated because while you know that there's a bigger calling on your life, you have bigger issues to worry about, things that if you do not stop doing today, you could possibly kill yourself, put yourself in the grave, lose all that you've worked for, lose your mind, lose your sanity, lose your peace. But you are holding on to these things. And until you let go of those detrimental things in your life and dedicate fully to where you know you are supposed to be and where you are going and where you've been divinely called, you will stay stuck. Change is a process, and it requires dedication and you giving up some of the freedoms that you had. Now, giving them up isn't necessarily a bad thing. What I like to go through with my coaches is a process of giving up something and gaining something new. Okay, so I cannot eat, let's say, Haagen-Dazs, and I can, but let's just say for this example, I cannot eat Haagen-Dazs, right? Well, maybe I'm going to show you a different version, or maybe here's a better example. Here go yogurts that I used to love, but when I looked at like 20, 30 grams of sugar, and I never paid that any attention. But now that I'm on this mission, I need to look at everything I'm doing that impacts my ability to get where I want to go. So now it's not that I can't eat yogurt. It's just that the types of yogurt I eat are going to be different. No one's saying that you can't go out and have fun, but going out and fun needs to look and be different for your next level. No one's saying that you can't talk to your friends and have certain conversations, but some of those conversations do need to be different for the level you are trying to go on. No one's saying that you have to detach completely from people, places, and things in your past, but you do need to recognize where you no longer have the freedom to do certain things, because while some of those people have nothing to lose, you have everything to lose. And so you have to start thinking differently about what you want, because when you are committed and dedicated, there are things, quite frankly, point blank in the period, that you have to do differently. We have to understand that we cannot stay stuck on the fence. Okay. So, why is change important? Well, we kind of talked about it. It's your next level. It's your next best season. It's you getting out of the valley, climbing to the mountain, climbing to the mountaintop. It's you from going from having high blood pressure to being on a hospital bed to thriving and living without medication and needles. It's you fighting with your spouse or bae or your partner every day to having a relationship that both of you enjoy and neither of you want to run from or go look for somebody else to fill the voids because you don't have it in the relationship. Change is the difference from you being at this level in the company to making it to the C suite. Change is the difference between you figuring out how you're going to pay the light bill and the credit card bill to having so much abundance that you can give freely and not even worry about it. Have your bills paid and not wonder, oh, well, what am I going to do now? Because now that I pay bills, I don't have any money, or I can't pay bills if I want to have money. Change is required from you to step out of this lack and desperation into your season where you thrive. There's abundance, there's peace, there's joy, and there is fulfillment. Mind, body, and spirit. I'm just not talking about tangible things. I'm talking about being able to live well, being able to smile more, laugh more often, enjoy your family, and they enjoy you more because you have committed to the change required in you for things to change, not just for you, but all around you in your home, at work. If you lead, the people you lead in your committees, on your boards, in your schoolrooms, in your classes, anywhere you are a presence, when you change, those things will naturally change as well. But that can only happen if you are truly committed to change. So now let's talk about let's see. Now, one thing before we move on, I want to mention that every change doesn't have to be this profound, gigantic, enormous, life-changing, earth-shaking thing that you do. So earlier I mentioned something very simple like yogurt. And if you were in last week's um, ignited teachable moment, ignited teachable moment, then you know that we talked about small steps. And actually, I have a free training that I am going to release today. And it's 4 secrets to manifesting more and creating a life that sets your soul on fire. And in there, I talk about one of the secrets, spoiler alert, is small steps every day. So when we talk about change, we're not just talking about major things that really, shake up a whole lot of everything. We're talking about small steps as well. So I thought about my son and I. Well, last week we were driving to his school, and my daughter's at the school now. So at one point, my son and daughter were there. Now, just my son's there because he's in high school now, and this is her last year at this school. And he said, it's so funny how we used to take this one road because it was a straight line. So it seemed like the best choice. My husband always says, what's the shortest distance between 2 points, a straight line. So we always took this straight line to the school. Well, the straight line to the school was about 40 minutes from point A, home, point B, the school. Well, one day I saw one of the school buses at a different point on that line. And I was like, how did he get here so fast? Like, and he's got kids on the bus. He's got to stop at stops and let them off. And he beat us here. How the heck did that happen? So what I did, one day I said, I'm going to follow this bus number 44. So I followed bus 44 from the school, and it went this completely different route that bypassed all the crazy traffic on the straight line that we normally take. And we were there super fast. So I started taking that road. Once I took that road, I realized another alternate way I could take. And now the ride is 20 minutes. So we went from a 40-minute ride to a 20-minute ride. Why? Well, success leaves clues. That's a whole another video on watching people who are getting what you want and doing what you want, and doing it in a way that they may not be pulling their hair out like you are. But, that's just an example of change, right? a simple change in our route to our destination. So this is what I'm talking about here. It's about you understanding what it is you need to do to be where you want to be, and taking small steps. Small variations in your day can have big impact. I mean, this is half the travel time back and forth to the school because we made one left turn and then another right turn, as opposed to taking this one route that we thought was the best route to take. So think about that, and as you listen to this and maybe come back to it, I want you to think about, what are some of the small steps that you can do as you move through the process of change, as you are dedicated and committed, and you understand that the actions need to be a little different as you go through this process. What are some things you can do? Small things, and then list out those big things too, because hey, big big life, big dreams that require big faith require you to do some big things too. Everything can't be a small thing, but there are plenty of small things you can do that collectively lead up to that big thing. Okay, so now what I also want to talk about here is change starts with us knowing that we can only control ourselves. Therefore, change starts with us. Okay, so notice when I'm talking about commitment, we're not talking about someone else being committed. We're not talking about someone else changing direction. We're not talking about someone else understanding that their actions need to shift. I am talking directly to you. If you want to see change in your life, it is going to start with you. Now, here's the hard part about change. Even when you feel like the other person is wrong, this other thing needs to change. If only they would, then I could. Rest in peace to that. No, 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 no. It starts and ends with you. Why? Because you cannot, as much as you want to and as much as you try, beautiful soul, you cannot control anyone else but you. Okay? I can remember being so angry with my husband about very small things and some big things in our relationship and our marriage. Things like cooking and why won't you eat, my dinner? I don't care that you had chicken for lunch. Now you don't want chicken for dinner. So now you're telling me that I cooked and you don't want to eat it. To big things like us having to learn, change is a process, learn how to parent together cohesively, even when we may have differences of opinions on disciplinary actions or if something was a big deal or not, right? How could we show up as a united front in front of our children? That was a change that we had to go through. But here's where the success in the change happened. The success happened when I realized that I could not change him or his mind because he's grown. God made him, gave him his own thoughts. Therefore, I cannot go in with my powerless self. The only power I have is personal power. God did not give me temporary power over anyone's life, right? So I cannot change anyone. I am only responsible for the change in me. You need to be the change you want to see. It is not up to someone else to give you something. It is not up to someone else to agree and pave the way for what you want. You have to be the change. So in my marriage, again, having these issues and I'm just like, oh, you're being so unreasonable, right? I still think my husband's unreasonable at times, but I'm like, you're being so unreasonable. And I'm telling my mom about it every morning. I'm talking to her about different things, that he did. And at one point, my mom says, you're really negative. And I'm like, me? Excuse me. I am the least negative person that right? And she's like, nah, maybe, but not with this. Like, you're very negative. And as much as I did not want to hear that, and as much as I did not want to believe it, it still required me to self examine. And what she was telling me was that you have to change how you speak, how you articulate your thoughts, and how you problem solve and co-analyze issues with your husband. And she was absolutely right. Once I began to change how I spoke to him, Now, should I have to be like, okay, I've got to approach him in this certain way? Well, ego will say no, right? You're who you are and you're powerful and you're not going to be, doing this and that to make nobody else feel better. But sometimes it's a requirement. And not that it was to make him feel better. It wasn't even about him. It was about me wanting calmness and peace and joy in my home and in my marriage and with my children. And in order to do that, I had to find a better way to communicate effectively. Right? Now, at first, he didn't change. So I had to work through him still being snappy, snippy, and all of that. Right? But here's what did happen. Once I began to stand in my truth of the vision I had for my family, and I did not waver from that, and I spoke differently, his conversation and his tone changed because I changed. That's how I know, and I know, and I know that when you change, you will see the change you require, right? I never expected him to change, but because of how I changed, change was inevitable in the relationship. Okay. So it's important for you to understand that regardless of how someone's responding, whether someone has the money, didn't loan it to you, did, whether or not, oh, well, they have this and they would just give me this. And if they would just cooperate in this way, or they would just be different from me, it would change. That's not going to happen. Change starts with you. And it's up to you to be the change you desire to see. I had a quote here. I hope I can find it because I really wanted to share this with you. Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. That's George Bernard Shaw, right? Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. So understand this, change has no room for ego. Okay? Change has no room for ego. If you want to have ego and you want to look a certain way in front of people and it's just all about people's perception and you looking high and mighty, then things will never change for you. Change is not about right or wrong. Change is not, oh, well, it's you versus me, right? Especially if it's someone you love. Because if you guys are on opposite ends of the spectrum, there's a bigger problem there. Okay? Because change requires you to say, I care more about you than I care about making you look bad. So let me come get you, mind, body, and spirit. Let me love on you. Let me change how I address myself to you so that it can bring us closer together. And therefore, we can change this dynamic. We can change this turmoil in our marriage. We can change all of this back and forth. We can change all of this not having joy and happiness and peace and figure out what's going on. But you have to let go of ego. You have to strip yourself from thinking that you always have to be right. Now, let me tell you, my ignited teas are not for people who have ego. Like if you're someone who's like, no, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and you feel that your power lies in you being just a little bit better or winning as opposed to someone else, then this community is definitely not for you. I believe in personal power, strength, endurance, courage, being brave, being strong. But I also believe that that does not have to happen at the expense of other people. I also believe there's a way you can display courage in a way that brings people with you. And one of the most brave, bold, and courageous things you can do is strip yourself of ego for the sake of change, process, and bringing everybody together. See, ego and all of those things aren't necessary for you to be who you want to be, stand in your power, own your truth, be brave and bold, and live your best life. That's a fallacy that someone else taught you through their bad example of leadership and power and change and getting things done. That's a bad example, and you may have held on to that, but that is not how you move through the world, serve the world with gladness, with humbleness, gratefulness, and with grit. It's not how you do it. So change is not a right or wrong. Change is not conditional, right? Um, but for some people, it is, right? Well, I'll only change if it feels comfortable, if it doesn't require me to stretch too much. I'll go about right here, but anything after this, no, no, right? It's like diving off of a diving board. Like you'll jump off the edge of the pool, but as you go higher and higher on that diving board, you're like, at some point it starts getting a little uncomfortable. Oh no, right? you'll start the business a little bit, you'll write a little bit, but then when it starts becoming a problem and you've got to give up some things, commitment, right? No longer having freedom of all the things you would like to do. Well, now, oh, well, no, maybe, well, I didn't have to do that anyway, right? Then you are not committed to the change you desire. That vision, that dream, that divine calling, that divine order on your life, it is not something you are committed to if you want to play gray zone, you want to straddle fences. Well, maybe sometimes, well, we'll see. Well, when the weather's nice, I'll run. But well, it's cold outside. I'm not going to the gym. Oh, well, no. You have to pick a side and decide what you want to do and where you want to be. But you cannot play this conditional game, because you will find yourself right here in this place next year or worse. Okay. So stop feeding these things and these thoughts that keep you where you are and begin to change your mindset, per our George Bernard Shaw quote. Those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. Let's switch that and say that those who can change their minds can change everything in their lives. It all starts with you, your commitment, and your desire to have and get out of the gray zone and the comfort zones and live the life you desire and deserve. So let's check our time here. Guys, I just love being in a space with you guys so much. I really do. Okay, let's see here. Okay, we're already at 30 minutes. So I'm going to wrap this up. The last thing I want you to think about here. So we kind of went through a lot. Now, what I want you to think about here is, in these ignited teas, yeah, we're talking and going through. I didn't see anything in the chat, but I do see we had a couple people on and off. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you and I honor your time, and thank you for being here. I want you to think about what you need to fully commit yourself to see the change you desire in your life. Now, when you answer this, don't answer it from the place of, well, I'm not doing it now, right? We're not doing that. As we're moving into this new year, we're moving through these holiday seasons very swiftly, right? Before you know it, it will be 2019. I want you to think about what you need to commit to fully. I want you to write commit to and then write fully. And I want you to start thinking about, what are the things that you've been playing small with this year? You went to the gym a little bit, maybe there's a relationship there and you worked on it a little bit. You wanted that promotion, you want to start your business, you want more peace, happiness, joy, health, wellness. You want to laugh more. You want to increase your network. Whatever it is, there are so many different things that all of us want. But in some ways, you did not attack. You did not attack those things. You played a little bit small. You committed a little bit. You got your toe wet, right? You felt the water a little bit, right? You stayed at the edge. Maybe you got in, but you stayed at the edge and, talked to your friends up here, and just sat on the edge like, hey, y'all, yeah, I'm in the water. But you didn't take a deep dive. Now it's time for you to start thinking about that deep dive. What do you need to do? What do you need to be fully committed to see the change you desire to see? Not just today, but for next year, as you begin to think about where you want to be, who you want to be, what you desire to have, and who you desire to serve. Okay, so I want to thank you so much for being here for our ignited teachable moment. This mug for today is super old. My uncle made it. It's a picture of my son. We were in Florida, and boy, talk about change. He's 15 now. So I wish you peace, abundance, love, happiness, and just excitement, power, and positivity as you move forward to all you desire, deserve, and crave in life. I will see you next week for part 2 of the 4 C's of change. Until then, be motivated, be inspired, beautiful soul, be a life ignited.